Hello and welcome to Relatively Crafty, a knitting podcast. I'm your host, Christy. I come to you from the Denver area of Colorado, where I live with my husband, Ron, our two daughters, Tatum and Delaney, our tuxedo kitty, Lilu, and our Podengo puppy, Sophie. Welcome. This is the second half of the all the sweaters that I've knit, that I've kept, that were for me. Recap. Parade. Woo! It is December 30th, and I'm trying to get this in before the end of the year, so at least I will have it recorded. And I'm going to try to get through all of these as quickly as possible. There are just about as many as I posted in my first sweater parade, which was all of the California sweaters. As I said, these are all the Colorado sweaters, so these are everything that I knit since moving to Colorado, which was about 5 years ago. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. The first sweater I have to show you is my Rustique, which is what I'm wearing right now. It is a pattern by Glenna C. It's a gorgeous cabled cardigan, as you can see. This is the first thing that I knit. Well, not the first thing that I knit. I knit a hat right after we came to Colorado, but this was the first real project that I knit in Colorado. I was going through a really bad knitting funk. I had, we went through a lot to get here. My husband was laid off in California about 6 or 7 months before we moved. He tried to find a job anywhere local, couldn't find anything, and so ended up widening his search, and there were a couple of options. The two main ones for his industry were Colorado or South Carolina. I was kind of rooting for Colorado because I've heard that they have bugs in South Carolina, and I'm not a big bug fan. Plus the idea of living in the mountains, or in a mountainous type region with snow and not a lot of hot summers, really spoke to me, coming from Southern California, where we had hot summers that lasted 6 months, but were at least dry. And then the idea of moving to South Carolina, where they also had hot summers that lasted a long time, but were also humid, that was more than I really wanted to try out. So thankfully Colorado worked out, and we moved up here. But as I said, Ron had been unemployed for a while, and so money was tight. We left our entire family, everybody we knew, because we were both born and raised in California, and we come to Colorado where we knew absolutely nobody, and that included my knitting. I didn't know any knitters here. It took me a while before I even had the ability in my brain space to look for a knitting group. I was very fortunate that the first knitting group that I looked for was the one that I felt so accepted in, and became my knitting group for Colorado. But it did take me a while. So I started this in October of 2016, and it looks like I finished it in mid-January of 2017, and it probably took me as long as it did because I was struggling with my knitting mojo, as I've mentioned. But then as we got into the winter and there was real snow, I realized that I actually needed it. And so I think those last couple of weeks, December and January, I was working on it a lot to get it done. I absolutely love it. It is knit out of Debbie Bliss Donegal Luxury Tweed Aran in the burnt orange colorway, which is 360013. I think it is just about the most beautiful colorway ever. It is something, it was actually a gift. The whole thing was a gift from my knitting group in California, and it's just amazing. They started carrying it at the yarn shop that I spent my time at out there. Unfortunately, that shop is gone, but they brought it in, and my jaw just dropped when I saw this beautiful orange color. And so I wanted to make sure that I picked a pattern that was going to do this yarn justice, and I think that I have done that in this pattern. As I said, this is the Rustique. It is knit in pieces and then sewn together. I I initially didn't like knitting things in pieces, and it's still not something that I do all that often, but honestly, I don't know why I avoid it, except for the fact that you can't try it on as you go. That is the only real advantage to knitting things seamlessly, because the actual sewing isn't hard, and I have to admit that it does make a sturdier sweater, one that you know, keeps its shape a little bit better. This actually is due for a wash and a block. You know, these kinds of sweater, this is not hand wash, or I'm sorry, this is not super wash. And these kinds of sweaters that you wear as, it's almost like a coat, really. It's very warm, and it's great for staving off our winter weather. But because it's an outerwear only, I maybe have washed it once since I made it, and I don't feel ashamed about that. It's just, it doesn't need it. But now I've gotten to the point where it could use it just simply to kind of cinch it up a little bit more, because it's gotten a little out of shape over the years. So anyway, it's got a beautiful cable design, which was rather intuitive, actually. There's cables on the sleeves, a nice like antler type cable, and then there's this beautiful cable panel on the back. As I said, it was rather intuitive, easy to remember. I think I might have gone a little bit off book for the collar, but I don't know that for sure. It doesn't look all that different than the picture, but yeah, I really love this. It is very versatile. I wear it a lot. It's a, you know, it's in a, if I'm wearing like a long sleeve shirt, I can use this as a coat. I wouldn't wear it for like 20-degree weather, but it's a good 40-degree weather sweater. Yeah, and it's gorgeous. Of course, the Donegal tweed is not a soft yarn, so it really is an over, like I wouldn't wear this as something with nothing underneath it, but in this yarn, obviously not this pattern because it's, you know, rather open here, but in this yarn I would definitely wear this as an overwear item. But yeah, I love it. And then I picked these buttons up special for it. They're just wood. I don't know what kind of wood, but they're perfect for it, and I love it. Next, I have the Vienne sweater, which is a pattern by Andy Satterland. This is the start, well, shortly before this is the start of when I got my knitting mojo back. It's when I started podcasting. I started my knitting podcast shortly after we moved here, and that helped with my knitting mojo. It helped with my just general mental health, because I was at least reaching out to people and who could appreciate you know, knitwear. Unfortunately, as I said, I had lost my knitting group in moving here, and so I was, you know, lonely, and I had a booktube channel for a while, and it was called What Christie's Reading, and I'd had that in California, and had continued it for a while when I came up here. And one of the booktubers that I followed, Little Prairie Library, she is also a knitter in Canada, and so she posted just a knitting podcast on her booktube channel, and I thought, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my goodness, I could talk about knitting. I love knitting. I mean, I love knitting probably more than I love reading. And so for a while there, I kept both the channels going, but I ended up closing down the book channel and favoring the knitting channel. And I'm really glad that I did, because I get so much more fulfillment out of the knitting channel. Anyway, this was, for a while there, I had a working Ravelry group. It's now defunct. And I would have knit-alongs. And so I had I think it was a summer sweater, or a spring sweater knit-along, maybe? Yeah, I think that's what it was, because, no, I apologize. I am incorrect. This I knit as part of the Andy Sat-along that Inside Number 23, who is another knitting podcaster, had going. And so that's what you had to knit an Andy Satterlund pattern for the Andy Satterlund. That's hard to say. Anyway, so I picked the Vienne, and I knitted out of Madeleine Tosh DK in the saffron colorway, which is probably my second most favorite colorway of all. I absolutely love this color. It's such a beautiful burnt orange. Burnt orange is, gosh, I just love burnt orange. Gosh, I just love burnt orange. I also really love garnet as a color as well. I'd say those two, fight for my favorite color of all time. But anyway, I knit this for that. I thought that I wasn't going to get a lot of wear out of it, because it's a cropped sweater, so it's meant for people who do a lot of that vintage look, 40s, lots of skirts and dresses, and I don't really wear those a lot. But I've actually worn this sweater a lot more than I thought. And to the point where I'm actually thinking about making some changes. I'm thinking about taking out this part of the sleeve and taking it back to where it's a proper short sleeve, because I think I will wear it more at work that way. This is okay, this kind of like 3/4 length sleeve, but I think that I would like it more if it was a shorter sleeve. So yeah, this is also one that is knit in pieces and then sewn together. It's got this nice little lace bit in the front, and then the back is almost entirely lace. It's a very simple lace, easy to do. This knit up fast because, as I said, it's a cropped sweater, and it didn't use a whole lot of yarn. I think I used just under 4 skeins, so not bad either for that. And then if I had made them proper short sleeves, then I probably could have used 3 skeins. But regardless, I do love it. These buttons actually work very nicely with the tank top that I'm wearing, because they are almost exactly the same purple color. But yeah, I love it. Madeleine Tosh DK is one of my favorite DK weight yarns. And at the time that I got this yarn, it was one of the few DK weight yarns that was plump like this. I've had it in, I had it in my stash for a long time before I made this sweater. Obviously my mojo had come back because I started this on February 20th, 2017, and I finished it on March 28th. So, not just about a month, which is kind of nice. And, yeah, I really like it. Next, I knit Backshore. Backshore is a pattern by Alicia Plummer. It's meant to be like a summer-ish beach sweater, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. I wear it very often. I think that if I were to make it again, I would probably give it a smaller neckline. Like, I don't mind it. It's just, there's no edging. It's knit top down, so I think this is just the cast on. And while it's fine, it is a little wide necked, and I would prefer it to be a little bit closer cropped. But other than that, I think it's perfect. I knit this out of Madeline Tosh DK in Sienne, and then this is the Verdant Griffin in their DK base Traveler. Yes, in Traveler, which and the colorway is Downcast Donkey. So just a really pretty gray, and I love these two together. This sweater worked up so fast because you're making stripes, and stripes are fun. They just are. You know, it helps you see how much progress you're making at any time, because you see it grow, and then you know you just oh, let me get through this stripe, and then you start a new stripe. Oh, just let me get through this stripe, and by the time you know it, the whole thing is done. This has some nice eyelet detail along the raglan and under the arm and on the waist, which is kind of nice. I did make it a little bit long, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it was just that I was having fun and not really paying attention, which, you know, is something that I tend to do. And then I do like the length of these sleeves, not 3/4 sleeves, just kind of almost half sleeves. It makes a difference. I wear this in the office a lot, as I said, and I knit it in about a month and a half. May of 2017 to June 20th of 2017. I started it on May 1st, and yeah, I love it. Technically, the next sweater that I made was the So Faded pullover by Andrea Mowry, which I knit out of Yarn Cafe Creations in 4 of her fingering weight colorways. It looks like this. It's in the house somewhere, but a couple of years ago, Delaney appropriated it for herself, and she has worn it a lot, which is good because it got a lot of wear, but it's been kind of destroyed, and I can't find it. So we're just gonna go with the picture, but I did make it for myself. It is still here somewhere. I knit it in October and November of 2017. I had a lot of fun with it. It is definitely a pattern that I want to do again, and I've got yarn set aside for a faded fingering weight pullover. I don't know if I'll necessarily do that same pattern, but that same idea of fading one into another. One of these days I'm going to make another one. But I did totally jump onto that faded sweater bandwagon. I know that Andrea Mowry kind of came into her fame with the Find Your Fade shawl, and she did a couple other faded shawls, but I never was into shawls so much. When she started making faded sweaters, I was right on that. And so after the So Faded sweater, I did the Comfort Fade cardigan, which is what I'm wearing now. This I loved even more because it's knit out of DK weight, which, you know, of course, will work up faster. And I was able to find, I had a couple of skeins in my stash, and then got a couple other ones. I was able to use some favorite yarns that I'd held on to for a long time. It was nice to be able to use them. And I kind of mixed a bunch of dyers in this. So I knit this the beginning of 2018. And as I said, it's the Comfort Fade Cardi by Andrea Mowry. I knit it out of Swoonish Walker DK, and that's this color here. Yeah, this color here. I knitted out of the Creative Obsession Plump DK in Come Together, which is this color here. I knitted out of the Creative Obsession Plump DK in Fire in the Sky, which is this most amazing color right here. Really could kick myself for not buying a sweater's quantity of that when I had the opportunity, because it is the most gorgeous variegated colorway, and Carrie of the Creative Obsession doesn't dye anymore, and so it's a lost opportunity. But you live and learn. And then lastly, I used Madeline Tosh Long Rider DK in Brass, which is the yellow semi-solid. So yeah, I absolutely adored making this. It was super fun. I have worn it both ways. So it's pattern's written to wear reverse stockinette with the pearl side out. For a while there, I hated it because I am a bigger fan of stockinette, so I wore it this way. But I have to say that the fade, while this is gorgeous, of course, there's something about the fade on reverse stockinette that works so much better. So I have been wearing it this way for a while. There's some things that I wish I had done differently. I didn't get the right gauge knitting the sleeves in the round, and so they're a little bit snug and a little bit long. As you can see, it's not too terribly bad, but it does mean that I have to kind of fiddle with it to get it to fit on my arms correctly. I am hoping to, as I lose weight, that will no longer be a problem. But it is a very nice sweater. A word of warning though, the shawl collar itself is almost as much as the sweater. So when you think, oh, I'm almost done because all I have is the collar left, there's a lot. This shawl collar is a biggin. So there's a lot of knitting involved in this, lots of short rows, which is fun, and obviously makes a beautiful shawl collar, but don't think that you're nearly done when you have just the collar left. But yeah, I love this sweater. I love how it looks. It's one of my favorites. I'm proud of it. I love the colors that I picked out. I love that I was able to use some amazingly talented indie dyers for it, and yeah, it just makes me happy. Next I have Athena. This is a pattern by Vogue Knitting, I believe. Oh, it's by Marie Wallen, and I think it was in a Vogue book, possibly. It was written for this yarn, which is Rowan All Seasons Chunky, and I had picked it up, I think, in a D-stash. And when I bought it, it was with the intention of making this this sweater, which is a dolman type sleeve. It's knit from side to side, and I was very keen on making it, but I found that I couldn't find the pattern anywhere. It was out of print. I couldn't get it on Vogue. I want to say it was Vogue Knitting's website. So I contacted them and I said, is there a way for me to purchase this pattern? And they just sent it to me, which was super awesome and totally unnecessary, but I completely appreciated it. So I made the Athena. Because this is super bulky yarn, it of course knit up very fast. I knit this between February 3rd, 2018 and February 7th, 2018. So 4 days. I knitted on size 10.5 needles. As I said, it's knit side to side. So I think you start with the sleeves and you do this very simple lace pattern, and then when you get to this part, you cast on a bunch of stitches, knit across. I think you knit the front and back. I think it's knit flat. It's not knit flat. Oh, right. So it's knit. So here's the neck. It's knit flat like this. That's right. Anyway, the point is it knit up very fast. It was very easy to knit. The only complaint that I have is that weaving in the ends on this yarn was not fun, and it's hard to make them hide. So, and I went through a lot of skeins. I went through 9 different skeins, so there's a decent amount of ends, and that was kind of a bummer. But other than that, I really like it. The yarn is made out of, what is the yarn made out of? It is cotton and acrylic, 60% cotton and 40% acrylic. So this is a good, you know, warmer, I wouldn't wear it in the summer, but it's good for, you know, those transitioning times. And it's great for the office. And yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's very flattering, and there you have it. Next, I have Snowflake by Tin Can Knits, and this is a sweater. This is before I knew who Tin Can Knits was. I don't think I'd ever knit any of their patterns. Oh, no, I guess that's not true, because I hadn't. I had picked out this pattern before I even knew who Tin Can Knits were. I just was drawn to this beautiful lace. Hopefully you can see that. This beautiful lace bit. I just thought it was gorgeous. And so I picked up yarn in my stash ages ago and dedicated that to this pattern. It took me a while to get to it, but I did finally, obviously, because I'm, you know, wearing it. This yarn is the Verdant Griffin Traveler. This main color is Madagascan Sunset Moth. The Griffin yarn shops used to be the Sanguine Griffin. It was 2 dyers, and then they lived on opposite sides of the country. They ended up splitting after a while, and one became the Verdant Griffin, and one became Cephalopod Yarns. And so this, but they both do a lot of bug colorways. In fact, they have the Bugga line, which I've got a sweater out of that I'll show you later. But this is Madagascan Sunset Moth, just a beautiful variegated colorway. And then this purple is Dirty Deeds Done with Sheep, which is a clever name. You might notice that my sleeves are different dye lots. I ain't worried about it. It's hard with indie dyed yarns. I did alternate skeins on the body. I didn't do that on the sleeves. I don't think anybody really notices. I notice every time, but you know, that's just me, and I'm not too worried about it. It was super fun to make. A very pleasant knit, because you have this interesting yoke with the lace, and then just as at the point where you're like, okay, I'm done with lace, then you just have stockinette. And because I knit it out of a nice variegated yarn, I had interest throughout. I really enjoy it. I wear it a lot for work. I do wish that I had made the sleeves shorter. Decided that 3/4 length sleeves aren't my jam. I actually want them to be above my elbows, because when I'm working, I put my elbows on the table as I'm doing my work, and the yarn like bites into my elbows, and I don't like that. So so I decided that it's either going to be long sleeves for stuff that I'm to wear outside, or short sleeves for stuff that I'm going to wear inside. That's my plan. We'll see how I follow through with that. But I knit this starting in mid-February of 2018. I finished it on April 1st, so made a good progress. This is back when I was still not working. When I was a stay-at-home mom, so I wasn't working outside the house, and so I had more knitting time. So yeah. Next, I have my Blue Sands cardigan. This was a labor of love. I can't say that I really enjoyed making this. I enjoyed parts of it. The sleeve yoke section was very interesting, and I learned a lot. But I wasn't a fan of working with the yarn. This is a Wollmeise DK, which I was super excited about, but I don't really like working with it. It's lightly spun, so easy to split, and while the colors are gorgeous, it wasn't my favorite. And this is a long sweater, and it seemed to go on forever. But that being said, I wear this more than I wear it probably anything else that I've ever made. It is so comfortable. It goes with a lot of things, at least in my wardrobe. I love the colors. I love the way it feels. And I love the way it looks. I mean, while I didn't really enjoy making it, it turned out amazing, and I love it. One complaint that I do have with the finished product is that it's too long, and I thought that I was avoiding that because I had read through some other notes on Ravelry, but it still ended up being too long, and because of it, my dog, who is always excited to see us when we come home, she catches bits of it in her claws. She's a terrier type dog. She has long claws, and so she's constantly pulling out little bits. I fix this all the time because she catches little bits of it and drives me crazy. I don't know how to stop that, or how to make it not happen, which would also be how to stop that. I realized that I could work on training my dog not to jump. We were working on it, but terriers tend to be a little headstrong, and it's something that is hard to train into her. So anyway, yeah, I love this sweater. As I said, I knitted out of Wollmeise DK, and the colorways I used were Rotkapchen, I believe, is the red, which is my main color. Ganzenfugchen, which is the orange, and then Frühling is the green. I had a single skein of the green and the orange, and then like 3 skeins of the red. And that gave me plenty to knit the sweater with. I do think about knitting another one of these. It's going to have to be a while, but as I said, I do wear it a lot. And it's so comfortable and so nice. So, I don't know, maybe one of these days. But here is the Blue Sands. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say who the designer was. La Maison... really? Blue Sand cardigan. Super fun to make. Next, we have the Hippo Scrappy pullover. This is loosely based on the basic raglan pullover by Joji Locatelli. I think I used it for beginning numbers and then kind of just knit down. It's a top-down raglan, knit seamlessly, so I just kind of went with it. I do wear this one a lot. This is a nice, comfy sweater. It's very warm. It's basic, and I like it for those days when I just can't seem to get warm. It's perfect for that. So this is knit out of all of the leftovers of the Hippo for the Holidays colorways that I had knit over 2 years. I knit this I started it in November of 2018, didn't finish it until February of 2020. It took me a while, partly because I got sidetracked, partly because I had gone back to work, partly because I got bored. I think I needed to finish some of the Hippo stuff. But for 2 years, I knit the Hippo for the Holidays colorways out of sock yarn. The first year I did, I think the first year was 2017, and I did all different kinds of projects, and then the second year was 2018, and I knit all socks. I did do it again in 2019, but I did it out of her worsted and DK weight yarns, and I made hats. So those aren't in here. This is just the sock yarn. And I just mixed them together. I held them double. So so it's a DK weight sweater, and I just mixed them all up. And so you can kind of see all different kinds of Hippo holiday stuff. Like here's some Christmas stuff. I think over here we've got like Mardi Gras. It's all over the place. This I think is Valentine's Day one year. And I got smart. I started out just holding like 2. I think I held 2 colors, each double together. So the yoke here is pretty simple, but then when I got down, I realized I really needed to just like mix them all up. So I really got a little more wild as I went through the sweater. But it's a simple sweater. I made the sleeves a little bit long so that I could kind of put them like this. I can also fold them up should I want to, and sometimes I do. And yeah, that's the Hippo Scrappy pullover. All right, next we have Taiga. This is a beast. I knit this, I started it in November of 2019. I finished it right at the beginning of quarantine for COVID in March of 2020. I had, well, first let me say, the pattern, as I said, is Taiga by Svetlana Volkova. In the pattern, it is a short sleeve sweater, but it's super bulky. And I couldn't figure out why I would want to knit short sleeve for bulky, super bulky, like super bulky. So I ended up giving it long sleeves. A lot of people have done that, and a lot of them have put the colorwork pattern on the sleeves. I did a very, simple colorwork on the sleeves, and that was good enough for me. I knit this out of Hayfield, super chunky. I think it is mostly acrylic and then has some wool in it. The colorways are Hawthorn for the red and Blackberry for the purple. It is a coat. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. This is a coat. I barely wear it because it is so very warm, but New Year's Day, I think, is supposed to be 20 degrees outside and snowing, and that's when this will be perfect. So yeah, it was a fun knit. It has great pockets. It's a cute pattern, but it's super duper heavy. So it just doesn't get a lot of wear, but that's okay because I enjoyed the knitting. And sometimes with knitting, it's the entertainment that's the important thing, over the item that gets finished. Next is my first Camaro, which is a pattern by Tanis Lavallee, Tanis Fiber Arts. I had picked up the yarn to make this pattern from a trunk show that Nerd String was having at my local yarn shop, and it took me a while to cast on, but I did during COVID, and I loved working on it. It was so much fun. but I knit the wrong size, and I knew that the sweater was going to be too big in the waist. So I decided to make it cropped and use the leftovers to make another one. So that's what I did. So you'll see the second one later on. But actually, I wear this one a lot in the office. It's the perfect length of sleeves. It goes with so many things. Being cropped means I can wear it with a coordinating tank top underneath and go to work, and I don't overheat, and I love it. I did, after the fact, add a garter border on the neckline. It did initially just have you just, like with the Backshore, you just cast on and go. And it was a little bit too wide, so I made it smaller. But I absolutely love it. As I said, it's knit out of nerd string, all of her colorways. Some of these aren't repeatable, but I love it. Next, we have the Breezy Summer Tea by Scottish Sampler. I knit this also during COVID. I did a lot of sweaters while we were in quarantine. And I knit it out of Fibra Natura Unity Beyond. It's a summer weight yarn. It's got lots of summery things in it. It's 36% wool, 28% cotton, 18% linen, and then 18% rayon from bamboo. I knit a summery sweater out of summery yarn, and I wear it in the summer. I do like it. I hated making it, but I do love wearing it. And it fits very nicely. It's got, you know, kind of dolman shaped bits to it. And yeah, one of those ones where the process wasn't enjoyable, but the product is gorgeous. Next, we have the Love Note by Tin Can Knits. This was super fun to make, and it's super soft and enjoyable to pet. I have to say, though, that I really need to not do a bunch of mohair sweaters because it gets to be too much for me. After a while, I get mohair in my mouth. I start to get a little itchy. Yeah, it's just, I love this sweater. I have plans on making another one out of DK weight yarn because this is meant to be knit holding fingering and mohair lace double, so you get a DK weight base. And I do think it's gorgeous, and I do wear it, but not as much, I think, as I would have if I hadn't had the mohair in it. I knit this out of Hue Loco Phyllis Sock in Outer Space Love, which is actually a gray speckled base, and then Rowan Kid Silk Haze in yellow, which is why the sweater looks yellow. I do think it turned out beautifully, and I do love it. I can't wear it all the time, unfortunately, but I do like to pet it. I will sit there and pet my belly for days when I'm wearing it. It's kind of weird. I should probably stop that. Speaking of mohair, I had leftovers of the Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and Tanis Lavalley had just come out with this rocket tee when I had finished the Love Note, and so I went ahead and decided to make another mohair sweater. I don't wear this one all that often either, kind of for the same reason. Plus, I don't feel like the sleeves are flattering. I've been working out. I have muscles, like they're coming, but I also still have leftover. I don't quite like the way the sleeves fit. Anyway, this is the Rocket Tee by Tanis Lavalley. It's meant to be knit with a fingering weight, and then mohair held double, I think. No, just mohair. and you make stripes. And I knit this out of that same Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and then out of Leading Men Fiber Arts in Look on the Bright Side, which is probably one of my favorite of their colorways. It was a quick knit. I enjoyed it. I think it's a little bit too short. It's not quite cropped to length, but it's not long enough either. But yeah, so it's not necessarily a win, but I do wear it occasionally, and I'm glad that I made it. You know, they can't all be perfect. Next, I have the Alaska sweater, which is a pattern by Camille Descateau. It's a beautiful color work body sweater. So it's plain all the way through until you get down to the bottom, and then you add the color work. I knit this as a well, not a sample, product review. Kramer Yarns asked if I would review their yarn. This is their Tatami Tweed. I knit it out of Pumpkin, which is the orange, and then Burgundy. This yarn is actually cotton. Yeah, 55% acrylic and 45% cotton. So it's not very warm, but it is very nice. I really enjoyed working with it. I love the tweed. It doesn't feel plasticky like some acrylics can, and it doesn't feel inelastic like some cottons can. So it's actually, it was very pleasant to work with, and it's got a great price point. I do love this sweater. I need to wear it more. I don't know why I haven't. I keep forgetting about it, but yeah, the Alaska sweater. Next, I have the Lounging Top, which is it's the Lounging Top Sport by Joji Locatelli. I think she wrote this pattern in several different weights. I knit this out of that bugga. This is the Sanguine Griffin bugga from the original when they were together. And the colorway is Orange Assassin Bug. I love it. It's a beautiful orange colorway. And bugga is an MCN, so this is a very soft knit. I haven't really worn this out, partly because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of the sleeves, at least not yet. I'm working on my arms. One of these days they'll have big muscles, and then I'll be able to wear them sleeveless all the time. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I know that I should feel secure in however I look, but let's be real. That's not always the case. Anyway, also, I knitted a little bit too short. That was just me wanting to be done with it, and not planning properly. So, mohair in my nose. I have about a half a skein left over, so I keep thinking one of these days I'm gonna take it back and make it longer. I just got to get to that point. I haven't yet. So anyway, it's kind of being put on hold until I get to that point. But I do love it. It's gorgeous and soft, and I'm sure I will get a lot of wear out of it eventually. Okay, we got two more. This is Camaro number 2. I knit it down a size and added a couple of colors. You can see these 4 were the originals, and then I added this plum and this kind of brownish, and I made it long sleeves. I did that because I had lots of these colors left over and not a lot of the yellow. So anyway, what can I say? This is the Camaro by Tanis Lavallee. I knit it twice because the pattern was so much fun. This doesn't quite fit yet. I wanted something for a thinner Christy, and I haven't gotten there yet. Obviously I can wear it, but it's a little bit snug here in the arms, and as I've mentioned a couple of times now, I'm working on that. I started this in October of 2020 and I finished it this April. And I think it's gorgeous and I will wear it one of these days. Lastly, we have my first ugly Christmas sweater. My poor attempt at an ugly Christmas sweater, because this didn't turn out ugly. I had thought that if I mashed all these colors together, it was going to come out bad, but it didn't. It just came out cool. So this pattern is the Tony by Julie Weisenberger, Cocoa Knits, and I knit it using all of the leftover Christmas yarn for all of my Christmas socks. I held them triple, so I got just a modeled, very modeled sweater, and this pattern was nice and enjoyable. The Cocoa Knits sweater method is very interesting, and because I kept mixing up yarns, it was very enjoyable. I used the clasped weft join method, so I had almost no ends to weave in, just basically the beginning and end ones. And I had a lot of fun with it. I started it in August 29th of 2021, and I finished it on October 10th. Knit it very quickly. It's got pockets. I wear it all the time. Super comfortable, super warm. I think it's flattering. I really enjoy it. So yeah. And it's a perfect use of leftover, let me tell you. And that's it, guys. I actually do have another finished sweater. I finished my Advent sweater, but I'm not showing that yet because I haven't podcasted about it and I haven't taken pictures and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be at a later time. But that's every sweater that I've knit so far that I still have, that I knit for myself. You know, I've knit like 120 sweaters, but a lot of them have been baby sweaters or gifts or stuff that I don't have anymore because I didn't like it. But there's my sweater parade. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully later on this week, I can knit another podcast and show off what I've been currently knitting. But have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Happy knitting. Bye.